I'm Jared Dillian, and welcome to the Be Smart Podcast, how not to be an idiot with your money. So I'm going to tell you a story. I used to be the ETF trader for Lehman Brothers in the 2000s. So when I was on the ETF desk, we had these brokers. They were interdealer brokers. They were brokers between banks. And if you're trading index arb or ETFs, they brokered these things called EFPs. And an EFP is what's called an exchange for physical. And that's when you exchange futures contracts with the underlying. And in our case, we were exchanging S&P 500 futures with the underlying stocks or SPY. So used to do a lot of EFPs, and the brokers entertained. Had a lot of entertainment from brokers. And at one point, they started a poker game, and they invited me. They're like, it's going to be all the ETF traders. Why don't you come play poker? And I'm like, I don't know how to play poker. I've never played Texas Hold'em in my life. They're like, great, even better. I'm like, oh my God. So it was a $200 buy-in. It was a tournament. And I'm like, this is a complete waste of money. Like, I suck. I've never played before. I'm going to waste this money. And, this is back when I was eating cans of SpaghettiOs on the desk, and $200 was a lot of money. I did not want to do this, but I felt like it would be socially awkward if I didn't. So I agreed to do it. They had this thing at a restaurant on the west side in the basement. I mean, literally was an underground poker game. They had a couple of tables. They hired dealers. I mean, it was very professional. So I gave them my $200, and I sort of knew the rules, and they kind of had to explain it to me. So I'm playing, and some guys are busting out, some other guys are busting out, and it gets down to like the last couple guys, and I win. First time I ever played Texas Hold'em, and I win $2,000. I was fired up. I was like, this is awesome, right? So all these guys, they knew that I had never played before. They're like, well, that's beginner's luck. Let's, come on back again. So a couple months later, they did another poker night, and I won another $2,000. Same thing happens, $2,000. So I've won $4,000. I've won twice in a row. So I'm like, maybe I'm actually good at poker. So this is back when online poker was a big thing. They had Party Poker. They had a bunch of different sites, but I signed up for Party Poker. And I kind of dicked around with it a little bit. And I entered a tournament that was a $20 buy-in, and it was 7,000 people in the tournament, and I came in third. I shit you not. I came in third in this tournament. I started at like 8 o'clock at night. It went to 2 in the morning. I was peeing into Gatorade bottles, and I won $2,700. And I was so excited. My wife was asleep in the next room, and I actually went in there and woke her up. I'm like, I just won $2,700 playing Party Poker. She's like, shut up. Let me sleep. So at that point, I was hooked. I thought I was Johnny Chan, right? So I was like, I went on Amazon and I started ordering all these poker books and, the 2+2 books, which are the best. And I was reading these books and I was getting smart about poker. And I realized, I'm like, this is a very complicated game. It's a very complex game. There's a lot of nuance I didn't really realize. But I was getting smarter about it, and I was still playing online poker, and I never won anything again. I didn't. So, I've won some small stuff here and there, but, and I'm a decent player. Like, I'm not terrible, but I'm actually not as good of a player as when I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Now, some people call this beginner's luck, and this is sort of an explanation for beginner's luck, but it's not the full explanation. In games that are a combination of luck and skill, like poker, like trading or investing, even fishing, people who are really dumb make a lot of money. People who are really smart make a lot of money, and the people who are in between get killed. But it's not really dumb and smart. It's about information. It's about your knowledge of the game. Okay? I'm serious. So why is that? Well, the people who are really smart do a lot of research and they have really, really good information. And it's hard to screw up having the best information. It's hard for them to be wrong. The people who are dumb, they just look at a stock and they're like, dude, it's going up. One of my favorite things from back when I was at Lehman, this was in 2006, market was going up every day. I was writing these Bloombergs. I was bitching about the market. And this guy writes to me and he just says, bull market, dude. I never forgot that. It's going up, you dummy. And then it goes up. And the people in the middle know just enough to be dangerous. They know just enough to get themselves in trouble. And, typically what you find is, somebody who's a novice investor and they learn a little bit and they're like, they discover PE for the first time. They're like, wow, like these stocks are really expensive and these stocks are really cheap. So maybe I should buy the cheap ones and sell the expensive ones, and they get killed. That happens all the time. Now, when I first started investing, and this was like in 1997, I was 23 years old, I knew nothing. And what did I do? I bought index funds, and they went up, and I made money. Yeah, I was dumb. Dumb people make money. Then I got an MBA, and I started working at a bank, and I was exposed to all this information, and I thought I knew something. I was like, man, I'm one of the smart investors, and I wasn't. And I would say for the next 15 years, I basically made zero. I really did. I was just scratching around. So then I had a choice, okay? I could get smarter and get all this information, or I could get dumber. And I actually made a concerted effort to get dumber, and my investing got a lot better. I will freely admit that there are a lot of stocks that I buy just because they're going up. I pull up a chart and I'm like, wow, the stock's going up. I buy the stock. It's really that simple. There was an incident on CNBC a couple of weeks ago. There's a guy named Mark Minervini who was in the Stock Market Wizards book by Jack Schwager. And he's a legendary trader and he's a legendary trend follower. And he was on CNBC and he was talking about these stocks. And the host, I don't remember who it was, asked him, well, what does this company do? And he's like, He didn't know. He didn't know what the company did. And so for the next week, people were shitting all over this guy on Twitter, and he was having a really tough time. But, part of it was he wouldn't admit. I mean, really what he should have said was, well, I don't care what it does. It's going up. That's how he makes his living. He sees a chart and it's going up and he buys a stock, and he's a trend trader, So, yeah. The same is true with poker. The World Series of Poker main event is a really, really great tournament. And the reason it's a great tournament is because it's open to everybody. Anybody who wants to pay $10,000 can play poker in this tournament. And it's you get all different kinds of people and all different kinds of skill levels. And it's a very loose game. And there's a lot of things in life that are like this. And one thing I always tell people when they first start investing, I say, I pray that your first trade is a loser. Because otherwise, if you make a lot of money in your first trade, you're going to think you're Stan Druckenmiller and you're going to take all kinds of stupid risk. Now, my first trade was not a loser, unfortunately. By the way, I love playing poker and I wish I had the chance to play it more often. And I really wish online poker was still legal. That would be awesome. And I guess it is in New Jersey, but it was huge amounts of fun. Staying up until 3 a.m, peeing into Gatorade bottles to make $300. Sounds like a great use of my time. And that's really where I got to with poker. Party poker was around and I was coming home and playing poker. And I'm like, look, like I have this very high paying job. I'm making a huge amount of money at work. And then I come home and I spend, 5 hours trying to make $150. Like this isn't really a good use of my time. But it's fun and we should do things that are fun. So my recommendation is if you are already dumb, and like I said, I don't mean dumb as in low IQ. I mean, if you are a novice, what I recommend you do is study risk management, because the thing that kills dumb people in the end is that they never know when to sell. And we're seeing a lot of this now. They never make enough money. They hold on forever. And then the bear market happens and they do the round trip. And as we've talked about on the show before, there is always a time to sell. The decision of when to buy something is trivial. It's very easy. You just buy it. The decision of when to sell something is very, very hard. And in a market like this, I mean, we are basically in a 13-year bull market. It's really it's hard to decide when to sell something. So if you're in the middle of the distribution, if you know just enough to be dangerous, you have two options: to get really smart or to get really dumb. And it's a lot easier to get dumb. And if you're smart, it's hard to turn it off. It's very simple. If stocks are going up, buy stocks. When they stop going up, sell stocks. I used to follow a guy on Twitter named John, and he was a trend trader. In his bio, he said, "I buy stocks in uptrends and manage risk." And he had some quantitative way of stopping himself out of trades if they went against him. And I remember in the pandemic, he was getting shithoused, but after his stocks were down about 10%, he got stopped out of all his positions. And then back when they started going up again, he got back in. And I was like, this guy is the biggest fucking simpleton I have ever met in my entire life. I don't know if he had an MBA. I don't know if he had the CFA. I don't know if he had some kind of finance degree, but he was a simpleton. But you know what? It was actually the right philosophy. It really was. What he was doing was he was putting himself on the left side of the information curve, and he was a smart guy, but he was intentionally being dumb. But this is like Buddhist Judo that is very difficult to accomplish, and it has taken me years to learn how to do this. Stocks tend to go up over time. They do. Commodities vary. Sometimes they go down for long periods of time. And, if you're a short seller, it doesn't work very often. It's very hard. And if you're a short seller, this is one situation in which you can't be dumb. So one thing before we go, if you love the Be Smart podcast, head on into the reviews and give me a review. It really helps. It takes 30 seconds. And you could say something like, well, I thought Jared Dillian was a complete dildo until I heard this podcast, and now I'm convinced. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter, where we quickly become clear that I don't really care what you think. It's lots of fun. Follow me at Daily Dirt Nap. Tune in next time when we talk about how to make a budget. It'll be boring. Make sure you turn in. You've been listening to the Be Smart podcast. See you next time.